Yo, 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 Math by the Moon here to record a nice little video lesson for you on simplifying square roots involving I. So today we're going to learn about the imaginary number. Okay, so let me share this screen with you. Hide this out of the way. All right, so that's what we're doing, simplifying square roots. And here we go. First thing, I'll look at some square roots and cube roots to try and develop this in an introductory fashion. So the cube root of 1 is 1. Right? The cube root of 1, 1 times 1 times 1 is 1. The cube root of -1 is -1. And that's because, if you think about it, -1 times -1 times -1 is -1. The square root of 1 is 1. Now the square root of -1 we can't really do because you're looking for two numbers that multiply together to get you a -1. So like you think 1 times 1, well that's 1. -1 times -1, that's still 1. So in math class, this is our imaginary unit. So we call it 1i or just I. Okay, because you don't use a 1 often as a coefficient, you just write the variable. In this case, I stands for that it's imaginary. It can't really be done. So our first example here is the square root of 4, which is 2. Over here we have the square root of -4, which we can't really do, just like we couldn't do the square root of -1. So this one is 2i, two imaginary units. Careful here, this is a cube root of 64, so a lot of kids want to jump to 8. But it's really a 4 because we're doing a cube root. Now, cube roots, remember in our list, we could actually do the cube root of -64. It would be -4 because -4 multiplied by itself 3 times, -4, -4, -4 would be a -64. Let me change this one to a 49 and a -49. The square root of 49 is 7, and the square root of -49 is not -7. That's a common mistake. It is 7i. Okay, so that just gets you an idea of what we're going to do with imaginary numbers. Square roots of negatives, always remember the imaginary number. So moving forward, we would simplify square roots the same way we did before, but remembering now if we have a negative number, we have to simplify that with an I. So here we'll start off with two numbers that multiply together to get us -20. And I'm going to choose -4 and 5 because -4 is a perfect square, but we'd have to use I to simplify it. So this would be 2i on the outside, square root of 5 on the inside. And again, I left my space for my variables. I'm going to take out my pairs for my perfect squares. So I can take out an x, 1x here. I can take out 1y, but I'd have a y left over because I have an odd amount, so I have that left over right there. And the z goes back in as well. It doesn't have enough to make a pair. So there would be our simplified version. The main thing that's changing now is we have to remember that this is going to be an I in our answer, okay? Over here, the square root of -98, and we might choose to use the factor tree method if we can't think of a square that goes into it. This would be -49 and 2. So this -49 is 7i. Leave some room for my variables. The 2 goes back in. I'm going to divide here out my pairs so I can take out a cubed. 6 divided by 2 is 3. No leftover a's. 13 divided by 2 is 6 with 1 left over, so 1b left over in. There would be your final answer. So don't forget that negative sign. The procedure stays the same as what it did before with square roots. If you used a factor tree method, you're going to circle your pairs. Just do not forget the I. Do not forget the I if you use the factor tree method. Okay? So simplifying square roots with a negative must have an I. With cube roots, that's not the case. We already did cube root lesson. We know that if we have a negative inside a cube root, it's going to be a negative factor outside, okay? So what I want you to do is write down these two examples, pause the video, see if you can do these. Pause it. Pause it. And the answers are, boom, check your work, see how you did. And if you have any questions, bring them back to me. Last slide for this quick video, critical thinking. Remember how we built these answers before. We took the 7, the x, the y, and we put it back in. So like we did in the other critical thinking examples, 7 would have been a 49. But now it's got an I, so it's really going to be a negative 49. And the variables, we give them the same treatment. So pause the video, write down these examples, and see if you can get these answers. Pause it. Pause it. Work hard. I appreciate you guys. Here are the answers. If you didn't pause it, pause it. Don't peek, don't peek. Check your work. Hopefully you're able to get them. And if you couldn't, I have some other slides here that we can do in class when you come back in person that we can go over. Later.